they tagged us as one of the bands last year as a stoner rock band, and we're not trying to run with anybody, you know. And as soon as they did, it kind of is rated R is the result of it.
Silencing once and for all the lazy media tag of stoner rock with its bizarre explosion of different moods and styles, Rated R was an eclectic, raved-up, guilt-free phantasmagoria of sound, oozing no-nonsense punk rock attitude and in-your-face hedonism. It had one foot in the past and another in a new, golden future. Upon its release, music critics and punters were united in unqualified love for the album, citing its breadth of influence, range of expression, and quality of craftsmanship as its chief charms. The New Musical Express even went as far as declaring it their prized best album of the year in their end-of-the-year charts, eulogising its uncomplicated joy. They singled out Tension Head as one of the most perfectly realised rock songs ever written. As well as creating their own stir on the back of tours and the quality of their album, Queens of the Stone Age also fortuitously fell in sync with the climate of 2000, a year that saw something of a revival of American heavy rock in both commercial and critical standing. Acts such as At the Drive-In, Limp Bizkit, Amen, Papa Roach, and You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead joined the Queens in shifting the musical agenda forever. Not content to stand still and admire their achievements, the Queens continued to tour throughout 2000, including a memorable 5 p.m. set at the Reading Festival. Their last gig before Reading had been Des Moines, the much-derided birthplace of Anglophile writer Bill Bryson, and was another in a long line of punishing American club dates. The band had been on stage in Des Moines just a few minutes when the power went off and a riot broke out in the crowd. The monitors had packed up, so the Queens threw them into the crowd, who began taking them apart. Josh Homme was hitting himself with the microphone, screaming, "Don't fucking come near me," whilst a naked Oliveri was left disorientated and confused on stage, unsure as to who was on his side and who wasn't. The band clearly live for nights like those. They keep the blood pumping through their veins. Another notorious incident occurred on the Ozfest tour of the United States, where the group slummed it with inferior bands such as Godsmack, Taproot, Shovel and Slaves on Dope. For the Queens, some members of the audience weren't much higher up the evolutionary scale either, not even being able to look at Oliveri's naked body. One particular guy repeatedly screamed "faggot" at Oliveri before he'd even hit a single note. His original retort was to shout back, "I have a PA and you have nothing." Then Oliveri decided to humiliate the bigot by announcing to everybody that he was his lover, at which point the man charged the stage in an uncontrollable rage. Fortunately, this messy situation was brought to a halt when the madman bore the brunt of Oliveri's fists. Another show, at Pomona with Bad Religion, attracted a smattering of skinheads in the audience. Up until the point at which Oliveri stripped off, they were loving the gig, immersing themselves in the vibe. But then, once he was naked, they couldn't even look at the stage. 2000 was a great year for the band overall, but it was their legendary live performances that set the world alight and spread the Queens of the Stone Age gospel far and wide. They went down a storm particularly at the Ozfest tour in America and at the Reading and Leeds festivals in the UK. For the band's encore at Leeds, Oliveri took to the stage wearing nothing but his guitar. The next evening, the Queens played at the London's Highbury Garage, beginning a second promotional push for the album. Following a year in which the USA received the majority of the Queens' time and attention, they returned to the UK in November for a brief tour. Some of the venues were actually upscaled due to the incredible ticket demand. As 2001 kicked in, Queens of the Stone Age became internationally notorious when Oliveri was arrested for his onstage nudity. The fearless bassist fell foul of the law whilst performing with the band at the Rock in Rio festival in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, on January the 19th. He came on stage naked and remained so for over half the band's performance. Midway through the set, he received a warning from the side of the stage, which led to him announcing to the audience, "They say that unless I put some clothes on, they are going to call the courthouse. Apparently, nudity is not okay." Despite playing the rest of the set in a pair of black Levi jeans, he was arrested at the end by plainclothes police officers and taken to the local police station. They held him for 10 minutes until the lawyer acting on behalf of the festival arrived. It transpired that Oliveri faced an on-site trial and only just escaped a prison sentence. The bassist was, however, charged with the corruption of minors, which will probably involve a heavy fine. Frontal nudity is considered a serious offence in Brazil, especially when there are under 18s in the vicinity. Oliveri's arrest was likely to have been triggered by the fact that the concert was being filmed live for broadcast all over the country. Oliveri himself told the press the day after that the Queens had been threatened with having their show axed unless he got dressed, and that he was manhandled by a couple of nutters as he vacated the stage. Yet those who witnessed the incident felt that he had consciously played down the fracas to ensure that he got out of the country so that he could get to the big day out in Australia without any complications.
When that whole Seattle grunge thing got like that whole identity crisis about grunge, I mean, what was grunge? It was just rock.
It's rock and roll at the end of the day.
Rock and roll, period. Everybody, we all want to, or certain powers that be want to have a label that they can put it in the right section in the record store.
Whether it be new metal, sports metal or desert rock, the year 2000 surely belonged to the exciting strains of alternative rock music that came shuddering out of America. Completely without warning, Queens of the Stone Age were the cream of a crop of young bands who took USA, Europe and the rest of the world by storm. For the first time since Nirvana's Nevermind blew the world's minds and put US grunge well and truly on the map, this outbreak of brave, intelligent, energetic, agenda-setting disciples of rock and roll had shifted the ascendancy towards the US. But why now? The principal reason must have been a happy confluence of two factors, namely a disaffection with the sterility of much modern music and the coming of age of a desperate group of men who'd grown up in bands and were now ready to inflict their weaponry on an unsuspecting world, who'd lived with Britpop, boy-girl pop and cheesy, mindless dance for too long. If the likes of the Queens were a reaction to anything, then it was the pseudo-intellectual, aimless, rambling, lab-tech noodling that had defined the US underground music scene throughout the mid to late 90s. The glib, chin-stroking, cerebral, introspective post-rockers and lo-fi merchants had pushed rock music up its own backside and out the other side, it seemed. There was no passion, no urgency, no dynamism, no generational position. From Glassjaw and You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead, through to At the Drive-In, Slipknot, Monster Magnet, Papa Roach, Limp Bizkit, Amen and Lover's Laughter, the new music explosion was a broad Catholic church encompassing great variety, not to mention a huge range in quality. If it could be called a movement as such, then this was one that saw fit to overthrow the tired, stale, middle-of-the-road and narcissistic music clogging up the airwaves and replace it with heartfelt, timeless modern music. It could be termed an unconscious gravity towards classic good music, a feeling that it had to be revived after so much banal, conservative and synthetic pap. And kids have embraced these sounds because they connect with them instinctively on a gut level. They have become absorbed in the frightening roller coaster ride intensity and extremity of the sound of the bands. Could the new music be merely a drop in the ocean, a limited fad, or is it destined to last? Well, by nature, such reactive phenomenon have always tended to be faddish in themselves. But how faddish exactly will ultimately depend on whether these groups have that most prized thing of all, timeless songs. In the case of the Queens of the Stone Age, there seems no doubt that their music is built to last for a long time, and that it doesn't pander to trends or crass commercialism. There is, particularly on Rated R, an innate grasp of song structure, melody, and songwriterly craft and a poet's eye for compressed imagery. The level of sophistication exhibited on the band's remarkable second album shows them to be painters of sound, visionary artists who happen to be working in the medium of rock music.